How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, if you're on the phone, stand by. I will get to your phone calls here shortly. But first, I gotta ask you something. Do you believe in witchcraft? Do you believe in witchcraft? Particularly if you're a Christian, do you believe in witchcraft? Do you believe in spells? Do you believe that you can cast a spell on someone? You can go to a witch and have that witch cast a spell on someone, that you can channel the power of moonbeams into magic? Do you believe these things? Do you believe that you can connect to the spirit realm for guidance? Or that you can walk barefoot through the forest and channel the energy of the trees and summon the ancient magic? Is that all science fiction to you? Is that all mythology to you? You know, it's not to me as a person of faith. You read scripture and there are lots of condemnations of witchcraft because witchcraft ties into the demonic. And I, as a Christian, I believe angels and demons are real things. And we have a rise of a spiritual crisis in this country and demonic forces on the rise in this country. And witchcraft is part of that. You know, I mentioned a while back that I had gone up to Vermont, and I noticed in Vermont, I was there for a conference, and I went into the local Barnes & Noble, and they had, you know, the size of the bookshelves at a Barnes & Noble's, and they had 4 of them filled with witchcraft. Let me read you some of the pictures. Let's see, there is Witch's Spell of a Day Almanac, the Pandemonium, but it's demon in the middle. The Encyclopedia of Spirits, Moon Magic, your complete guide to harnessing the mystical energy of the moon. The Healing Power of Water, the Magic of the Witch's Broom. These are all pictures, or these are all books. I'm looking at this picture I took. Blackthorn's Botanical Magic, Wild Wisdom Companion, The Poison Path Herbal Guide, Wicca, Essential Oils Magic, also available in your local Christian bookstore. The Practical Witches Spellbook, Potions, The Practical Witches Love Spellbook, The Book of Witchcraft, The Modern Witchcraft Book of Terra, The Witch's Altar Book, Celtic Hedge Witchery, Moon Spells, Everyday Plant Magic, The Witch's Way, The Good Witch's Guide, The Rainbow Witch, The Wiccan Kitchen, The Druid Path, A Tea Witch's Grimoire, The Poison Path Grimoire, The Green Witch Illustrated, The Green Witch's Garden, The Crystal Witch, The Seasons of the Tarot Card, Protection and Reversal Magic, Everyday Magic, The Secret Herbs of Yule and Christmastide, Alpine Witchery, Solitary Witchcraft, Healing Wands of the Druids, The House Witch, The Kitchen Witch, The Psychedelic Explorer's Guide, The Witch's Almanac, The Complete Book of Incense, Oils, and Brews, Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner. And it goes on and on and on. There are 4 bookshelves of these things. One of the bookshelves is nothing but crystals and tarot cards. This was in Vermont. 4 bookshelves of this stuff. Does this concern you? The rise of witchcraft, the rise of pseudoscience, the rise of this sort of nonsense. Are you concerned? And particularly if you're a person of faith, does it concern you that we have a rise of the demonic in this country? Christians would say we have the rise of trans kids killing. There's a case down in Florida now where a girl has killed her mother and her mother's boyfriend because the mother called her she when she now identified as a boy, and then she tried to frame a black man. We have a rise of these mental health issues, and a lot of it's spiritual. Many of you recognize we have a spiritual crisis in the country. If that concerns you, it concerns you, one, that we have a rise of people embracing the demonic and witchcraft. If you're a Christian, you understand as demonic. You're channeling the demons. Or you're secular, and it concerns you that people already believe in all this Jesus stuff, and now you got the witches coming, and the witches are wild to you. The magic crystal spirituality, the new age nonsense that's recirculating as pseudoscientific witchcraft stuff. People wanting their tarot cards read, their horoscope read, or their ley lines, and the witchcraft and the power of the moonbeams and the talking to trees. If that concerns you, whether you're secularist and you look at people like this is insane, or you're a Christian, you look at this and say this is demonic, should it not concern all of you then that the President of the United States has nominated for Surgeon General a practitioner of the dark arts, someone who practices witchcraft? When my father, my dad is listening right now, and he'll laugh at me telling the story. I've told it before. My dad's younger brother, my Uncle Leaf, lives in Winter Park, Florida. If you live in Winter Park, Florida, you know Leif Erikson. That's my uncle. Yes, Leif Erikson. My dad is Eric Erikson. And my dad had a speech impediment when he was little. He spoke Swedish at home. He spoke English at school. He stuttered. My Uncle Leaf had accidentally stabbed himself in the eye when he was little, and he was blind in one eye. And Oral Roberts, the Christian televangelist and faith healer, would come through Miami, and my grandmother would take them. Every time Oral Roberts came through Miami, my dad and my uncle would be on stage, and Oral Roberts would ask my dad to say his name. My dad had a speech impediment. He could talk. He'd say Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts hit him in the head, knock him over, the pound on your forehead, healed. My dad could talk. Before he could say, I could talk, healed, and knock back somebody, catch him, drag him off stage. My Uncle Leaf would get up there, Oral Roberts would pray over him, and then he'd say, Leaf, what color is my tie? And my Uncle Leaf would say red or blue or whatever it was, palm to the forehead, pushed him back, healed. Before he could say, I've got one good eye. It didn't matter. Oral Roberts had cured him of blindness and their speech, and he'd be back the next year, and my dad and my uncle would be back on stage being healed again. I don't believe in faith healing like that. The Benny Hinn's of the world. Have you seen it's one of the greatest YouTube videos of all time. It's matching Benny Hinn's healing on stage to the old Street Fighter game, and it's just healed. It's hilarious stuff. It's also nonsense, just like the Wiccans and the witchcraft and the moonbeams, and yet the President of the United States has nominated a woman who will not, according to her Senate testimony, recommend vaccines, but she does recommend your use of hallucinogenics to contact the spirit realm. That I'm not making that up. She's written a book. She has written a book about that. These are some of Casey Means' own words. Quote, I set up a small meditation shrine in my house and prayed to photos of my ancestors asking for support on my personal journey, and wrote mantras and manifestations on small pieces of paper and tucked them around the shrine. According to her, she, quote, worked with a spiritual medium who helped me try to connect with my spirit guides for support and guidance, and did full moon ceremonies with grounded, powerful women where they called in abundance and let go of what wasn't serving them. She claimed to practice the Silva method, which is a pseudoscientific method of an electrician who he thought his daughter was a psychic and that you could train your mind to like move objects and stuff like that. A deep meditation to be able to connect to the world around you and the electromagnetic forces to be able to summon an object and have it fly across the room for you. If you were really good at it, it just might work. This is the person the President of the United States has nominated to be Surgeon General. She has openly written about her use of psychedelics to connect to the spirit realm and to channel her spirit guides. She has talked about walking through the forest to talk to the trees, to summon and harness their energy. This is pseudoscientific jargon. By the way, she's not a practicing doctor. She didn't finish her residency. And yet the President of the United States of America has, through a lobbying campaign, been pressured to nominate her for Surgeon General. You know who actually is a big opponent of hers, which I find funny, is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate from when he ran for president. Even that lady who was willing to campaign and run for vice president with Robert F. Kennedy is like, this woman's nuts. But you know, one of the interesting things here is that a lot of you who think we have a spiritual crisis in the country, because Donald Trump nominated her, you're mad at me for pointing it out. I had a listener come after me on Twitter today. Why aren't you talking about the SAVE Act? Why are you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about the fact that in a country where you believe there's a spiritual crisis, the President of the United States has embraced a practitioner of witchcraft to be Surgeon General of the United States, embraced a woman, the U.S. Senate may be on the verge of confirming, who practices witchcraft, who will not tell you you should give your child the measles vaccine or even the flu vaccine, but will tell you maybe you should take some psychedelics and channel your inner spirit and connect to the spiritual realm for guidance and advice. So don't take the vaccine modern science created, take hallucinogenics and talk to the demons. That's the advice of the woman Donald Trump has nominated for Surgeon General of the United States. And for every last one of you out there who is concerned with the state of the country, who considers yourself a person of faith, if you are not outraged that your administration that you support would promote someone who practices the dark arts of witchcraft, which are condemned in the book you call the Bible, that you believe is true, you should look yourself in the mirror and ask what the hell happened to yourself that you're not outraged by this. Oh, because the other side is a problem, so we're going to support the people who channel the demons on our side? If we got demons in the country, you should be opposed to any side that wants to channel and summon the spirit world. You should be opposed to anyone who thinks you can get magic by walking through the trees or channeling the moonbeams. You cannot be upset with the spiritual and moral direction of the United States of America and support nominating someone who's engaged in witchcraft to be Surgeon General of the United States of America. And if you think you can, well, then don't look at me when you're upset with the way the country goes. Look at yourself in the mirror. You're either complicit in the advance of the pagan pseudoscientific methods of witchcraft, or you stand up and say, hey, I can put up with a lot of stuff, but someone who channels the demons for power, I probably don't want that person as Surgeon General. It's on you, America. This is on you. You can call your senator today and say, oppose Casey Means. She's not a practicing doctor. She didn't finish her residency. She is not qualified by any stretch of the imagination just based on medicine, but it goes beyond medicine to she practices witchcraft. You think we have moral rot in this country? Putting someone who can't tell you to take medicine but take psychedelics to talk to demons in the position of Surgeon General might be a sign of the moral rot in this country. So the question is, what are you going to do about it, American? Let me tell you about one of the pains of home ownership. We had a dishwasher installed 2 years ago. Turns out it's been leaking behind the wall for 2 years. We did not know. Only when the dishwasher finally malfunctioned the other day did we know. Well, if you have HomeServe, it's like a subscription for your home for as little as $4.99 a month. They have your back. Repairs hit fast and hard. You could be searching for a contractor in a panic, or you could be on the phone with HomeServe's 24/7 hotline scheduling a repair. With 4.5 million customers, a 4.8 out of 5 post-repair rating, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. They're the real deal. You want to deal with HomeServe if you want to protect your home and your wallet. Plans start as little as $4.99 a month. Go to homeserve.com to find the plan that's right for you. Homeserve.com. Not available anywhere else. Most plans range from $4.99 to $11.99 a month. Your first year terms apply on covered repairs. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, and the phone number is 877-973-7425. Let's go to the phones. Lee, you are up first. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Just want to let you know that yesterday was 30 years to the date that the Cubans shot down the Brothers-in-Arms Skymaster with the Cuban MiGs.
Right.
My cousin was the Coast Guard Falcon pilot who testified for Congress, who videotaped that incident, Commander Buckridge. And this morning, the congressman who represents Monroe County for the Keys, he said that the boat was stolen from the Keys. It was an open fisherman. It wasn't a speedboat. And he said that it was guys that were commemorating that event, and they were still mad about that Brothers-in-Arms event. Also, yesterday you commented on the Delta pilot. I'm a commercial helicopter pilot. I've talked to you before. That was the 160 Special Aviation Battalion out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. They are the taxi for all special forces. And when you see black helicopters, stand by, because that's who delivers all special forces, or the 100 Special Aviation Battalion sword pilots. They're also the guys that were depicted in Black Hawk Down. Anytime a black helicopter is around, they're delivering or picking up any special forces, SEALs, Delta, anybody else. The only ones that also ever do it are the Air Force pararescue, which are the rescue guys as well too. But predominantly the 160th Special Aviation Battalion out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, best pilots on the planet. And that guy,
that guy's not only is he American hero, he looks straight out of Central Casting. I mean, I saw him. I was like, this guy could be cast as Superman.
Well, that guy is like a sixth. I never even heard of a warrant officer 6, and
he's warrant officer 5.
Six deployments in a row. Thanks for the correction. And warrant officer, never even heard of a warrant officer 5. I've only flown with a couple of guys that are ex 160th, and every time I fly with one, I've been a commercial pilot for 43 years. I've always learned something. I've flown with one guy that has more time than me in night vision goggles than I have total time. So they're always very special.
They are, and I got to cut you off there because I got to go to commercial break here to tell people about Incogni. Incogni.com, INCOGNI, Incogni.com/Eric. You can get 60% off at Incogni.com/Eric. What do? They work behind the scenes to take you off the internet, to make your life private. There are a lot of states that sell your data when you go, for example, get your driver's license renewed, and they sell it to the data brokers, who then can take it, and then they can buy your credit card purchases from your credit card company and lay it over your personal data, and then sell it to others for targeted advertising and the like. And Incogni goes and tells them to take it down as your representative. Incogni is INCOGNI, Incogni.com/Eric. You get 60% off. A lot of the spam calls you get from marketers are because of this data that's online, and Incogni takes it off, and your spam calls go down, your junk mail goes down. They do a great job. They work for me. Incogni.com/Eric. They can work for you. Incogni.com/ERICK. Hello there, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you wherever you are. In fact, well, I was about to jump to the phones, but he hung up right as I was jumping, so never mind. Don't forget to text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Now, I want to get back into some of the Gavin Newsom news of the day. A reporter asked the Gavin Newsom team for documentation that Gavin Newsom actually had dyslexia. Now, by the way, you should know that for like 20 years he has claimed to have dyslexia. But Joe Biden, for a long time, made a lot of claims that turned out not to be true. And so people wanted documentation. And Gavin Newsom's press secretary told the reporter, who works for a conservative outlet, to F off. And then the communications team for Gavin Newsom defended the use of the vulgarity, saying that Gavin Newsom believes that they should respond in kind the way Donald Trump does to highlight Donald Trump's vulgarity. They should get vulgar as well. It's like saying that we should highlight the abuse of drugs by shooting up heroin to show just how bad heroin addicts are. I don't know that it's a winning strategy, because in large part there's a lot of polling out there that shows Americans they give Donald Trump license to behave a certain way, and they don't like it with him, but they know that's how he's going to be, and they don't want anyone else to behave like that. And I think that's why I was talking to a Democratic strategist yesterday who says that the signs are there that Newsom's 15 minutes are almost up, that people are getting tired of him. And stuff like this is why people are getting tired of him. A lot of Democratic governors don't like Gavin Newsom to begin with. I had one Democratic governor tell me they agreed with Chris Sununu, the former governor of New Hampshire, that Gavin Newsom was quote unquote a D-bag. And I'll just say it that way. And I think people are kind of tired of the open campaign for president right now. Right now, he's trying to rally the opposition. He's also trying to stand up and contrast himself with Kamala Harris, who is trying to have her 15 minutes of fame, scaring people to get them to vote. This is Kamala Harris on a podcast.
So we need to be clear-eyed and alert to what might be at play around these midterms, because obviously he is one of the most unpopular presidents ever in the history of the United States.
After who,
His
Kamala?
agenda
After who?
Is one of the most unpopular in
After
the way
who?
It has played out.
After who?
And then, Aaron, I'll also say, let's be prepared, because if, as many predict, we win the midterms, if we don't win by substantial numbers, I can see a situation where they find some reason to refuse to seat Democrats who win. And, we saw that happen around Grijalda and that situation, and they delayed it for weeks. I could see the same thing happening.
Now, how is that not election denialism? If a Republican said that, the media would call her out, but she's a Democrat. Gavin Newsom is taking shots at her over her rise because of Willie Brown. Willie Brown's rise because of Kamala Harris, however you want to look at it. He's trying to be a little bit passive in calling out that. It's very funny to watch that situation shape up. But Newsom, he's kind of exhausting Democrats at this point. So there's a thing in politics about peaking too soon, that you build up a lot of momentum, and it really is a thing in politics, having run campaigns. You want to make sure that your momentum stays going. And occasionally, when you're dominating coverage after a while, people start tuning out. Think of it like a billboard. When you drive up and down the road and the same billboard is there all the time, you instantly know as you drive past, you just see it out of the corner of your eye. You don't even have to look at it directly anymore. You know exactly what the billboard says, what it's advertising, and you stop paying attention. And then a new billboard comes along. And the next one's changed. Now you're paying attention to that billboard. It's got a more captivating image. So what a lot of billboard operators do, and by the way, I always tell candidates, don't buy billboards. You want your name up there on the billboard, but it doesn't really matter. People are going to forget about it after a while. A lot of candidates, it's a vanity project. They want to see their names on billboards. It's a waste of money. Make that the last thing in your budget. But candidates peak like that. You see the same guy all the time. You know exactly what he's going to say, what the topic's going to be, and you tune him out. Along comes the new flash in the pan, and suddenly you're paying attention to that guy. So you as a candidate don't want to peak too soon. And it feels like Gavin Newsom has peaked too soon. He's dominated everything. He's dominated the conversations. He's been the voice of the opposition. And now suddenly he's back to, well, I'll run for president and talk to my family, and my family will decide for me. Dude, you totally want to run for president of the United States. It is abundantly obvious you want to run for president. But the problem is after Biden, you know, there are some people who will cover for Joe Biden at this point. They will aggressively defend Joe Biden, and they will do the same for Gavin Newsom. Politico, for example, is out in their playbook going after the journalists who are asking Gavin Newsom to document his claims about having dyslexia and the like. But Laura Powell she was on the left. She's kind of changed. She put this out, fact-checking Gavin Newsom's memoir. I actually haven't found any verifiable falsehoods. He ignores, he obfuscates, he distorts aspects of his life that don't fit the image he wants to project. But I generally find the versions of events in his books to be plausible based on my research. The problem is that the stories in the memoir directly contradict earlier claims he's made. For example, for many years, Newsom has claimed to have played baseball in college. In the book, he admits he never returned to baseball after suffering an injury before his freshman season even started. A couple years ago, Cal Matters confirmed he did have surgery on his elbow at the time, although his book makes it sound like he tried to rejoin the team. A witness says Newsom didn't even bother going through rehab. Newspapers repeated Newsom's false claims about his life as if they were fact for years. So I have little hope that legacy media will call out the inconsistencies now, and we've seen that the journalists that do are subjected to insults and verbal abuse. I do think we can all expect and realize that what the American press corps is going to do to Gavin Newsom is what they did to Joe Biden. They're going to circle the wagons and protect him. However, if Gavin Newsom has peaked too soon, they might not. And a reckoning will come for him as the Democrats try to elevate someone they think can beat a Vance Rubio ticket. It's just a wild situation. My buddy Jeff just texted me. He's in line at his kid's school. He says, I can hear your voice coming from two different cars at the same time. I am ubiquitous. So, look at what the media did to Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and he is one of those things that white progressives like. And white progressives in the press corps tried to make him a presidential nominee with no claim to fame other than being mayor of a poorly run city in Indiana. Better run after he left. Instead, he wound up getting Secretary of Transportation, and internally inside the Biden White House, lots of people have said he was overwhelmed by the job. He wanted the title, not the job. And yet the progressives, when Kamala Harris needed a vice presidential nominee, rushed out to say, oh, it's got to be Buttigieg, it's got to be Buttigieg. Oh, my gosh, Kamala Harris beat Buttigieg to get that one to win. That would be the winner. Pete Buttigieg gets 0% among black voters, which is very hard for someone to do, to get zero support of any constituency in the country. There are more Baptists than black voters who supported Pete Buttigieg, even though he's a gay, married, and has kids. That's, by the way, why it pulls at zero with black voters. It's like the James Tallarico situation in Texas. Gavin Newsom doesn't do much better than that. But the white progressives who dominate the press, they like him. So they've elevated Newsom, they've elevated Buttigieg, and they just don't work well with other people. And then, of course, Gavin Newsom has something Pete Buttigieg didn't even have. Gavin Newsom has a record in California, and it's not a great record. There is population flight from California. People are leaving the state. People don't want to be a part of Gavin Newsom's California. There's the crime element. There's the serial child molester who was let out of prison the other day because he's over 65 now. There's the high-speed railway to nowhere. All of these things that Gavin Newsom spins as success that the media lets him get away with. But we live in an age where ABC, CBS, NBC, and the New York Times don't dominate coverage anymore. There are plenty of other outlets out there. There are not media silos and monopolies anymore. And it's very hard for them to go to bat for Gavin Newsom. And the way they tried to go to bat for Pete Buttigieg, and they couldn't go to bat for Buttigieg because they no longer dominate. You've got this very split media situation now where the message of the other side is going to get out. So you got to be better. And Newsom thinks he's better than you and me, but he's not better in terms of being a politician or even a person. Which then goes full circle to Kamala Harris. Have you noticed she's starting to speak up again? She's starting to talk again. She's starting to say blitheringly stupid things again that the Democrats cover for. I'm not sure between Buttigieg and Harris and Newsom that we have seen the nominee. I'm not sure that we know who the Democratic nominee is going to be. I'm kind of keeping my eye on Mark Kelly, to be honest with you. Mark Kelly is the war veteran who is married to the anti-gun advocate, Gabby Giffords, who was shot, whose twin brother's an astronaut, who Pete Hegseth has elevated by attacking, who the Democrats perceive as being privately progressive but perceived as moderate. Maybe it's that guy. What I do think, though, is that when we see an American press corps that is so hostile to the American hockey team. By the way, I do think a memo went out because I started seeing progressive politicians come out and say, hey, lay off the American men's hockey team. We should be celebrating their win. And then I saw members of the progressive press say, no, they joined with Donald Trump. I wonder how rapidly far left so many of these people are going to move that they're going to alienate themselves before 2028. And I realize there's some of you who are saying, Erickson, it's not 28, it's 26. You should be talking to the midterms. Listen, I see how the midterms are going. I in my vast right-wing conspiracy meeting this morning, saw some polling, and it's not good for the GOP. It can be mitigated if we play on our A game. I'm not sure we are, but it can be mitigated. But what I see happening is that the Democratic Party does well in the midterms and decides, you know what, I don't have to do anything in 28. I've won. And then they nominate some far-left wackadoo who can't tell us if boys can become girls again, and the Vance Rubio ticket wins. In fact, I will tell you right now, I think one of the wisest things the Republicans could do is just go on and embrace the idea of the Vance Rubio ticket. Go on out of the gate, Vance Rubio ticket or Rubio Vance ticket, decide. Let the president decide how he wants to do it. I don't know that Vance could go from being vice president to secretary of state. It's a step up for Rubio, would be a step down for Vance to run a second time as vice president as opposed to being elevated to president. It's a step up for both of them. For Vance to go from the vice presidential nominee to presidential nominee, Rubio to go from secretary of state nominee to vice presidential nominee, it'd be a great ticket. And then watch the Democrats flail around with not being able to tell us who a boy is or a girl is, and watch the American media try to circle wagons around them and protect them, and then have the Republicans remind people the very same progressive press corps that is protecting the progressive politicians are the ones who assailed the American men's hockey team for beating Canada. I'm just not sure who the Democratic nominee is going to be, because I do agree with my Democratic strategist friend that Gavin Newsom's 15 minutes is almost up. Even the Democrats are tired of him. And I think it'd be a good thing to move on from Gavin Newsom. Let California rot. I love you listeners in California, I do, but you know your state's screwed up and needs an intervention, and I just think that y'all are going to have to hit rock bottom at this point before someone decides to do the intervention. But at some point, that reckoning has to come. And it's not going to be Republicans, I don't think. I think it's going to be Democrats within California recognizing, hey, Democrats, we're not becoming Republicans, but we're going to run like Republicans. We're going to be tough on crime and pro-business. And maybe that will shake the core of the California Democratic Party, but that will be in stunning contrast to the California Gavin Newsom has led. And that California Gavin Newsom has led is the California that's record precludes him from being president of the United States. Welcome. Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. So we're concerned about Nazis these days, aren't we? The American Press Corps is deeply concerned about the Nazis and the fascists and the Republicans. Will they be concerned with Graham Planter? He's the Democratic candidate for the Senate in Maine who had the Nazi tattoo. The media made excuses for his Nazi tattoo. Graham Plantner is recirculating Stu Peters. Stu Peters is a neo-Nazi Holocaust denier. It really is horseshoe politics. The far left and the far right are just come together at the end. So Graham Plantner is leading the Democrats in the Democratic primary in Maine. He knowingly got a Nazi SS tattoo on his body. And when it was pointed out in the campaign, he claimed ignorance despite previously talking about how he was a student of the history of World War II. And now he's recirculating a neo-Nazi tweets about war in Iran. Will the press corps do anything about it? Or since he has a D next to his name, they'll ignore it? My suspicion is they'll ignore it. They won't care about it. They give the neo-Nazis a pass on their side. A Democratic politician from New York is under fire today for criticizing his own party for mainlining anti-Semitism, that to be a prominent politician in the Democratic Party of the 21st century, you must be an anti-Semite. That's what a Democratic politician says, and the Democrats are attacking the guy. Meanwhile, none of them are calling out Graham Plantner for having a Nazi tattoo and circulating the words of a neo-Nazi Holocaust denier. If you want to understand the cynicism of the American people towards all this stuff, when you weave together the media's silence on a Democrat Nazi and their shaming of the American hockey team for beating Canada and hanging out with the president of the United States, you can understand where we are as a nation. We need a free press in this country, but when our free press is hostage to its hatreds and prejudices of the American public and the right, we don't have a free press, and that's why our democracy begins to break down. Now, while it's all breaking down, Swiss America is out there trying to educate you on it. In fact, if you go to SwissAmerica.com, their blog now has a lot of the information. You can find their YouTube links as well to their podcast. They're breaking down what's happening with the BRICS, with monetary policy, with gold and silver. In fact, Swiss America is one of the trusted leaders in precious metals in this country. They have been for 40 years. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. I myself have bought gold from them, and you can too. Then you can get from them their Secret War on Cash report, which takes less than 15 minutes to read. You just call or text 800-289-2646. The Secret War on Cash, by the way, it actually involves cryptocurrency and what the government's doing to steer you away from it towards plastic so they can monitor your purchases. You get a copy by calling or texting my name. Just tell them Eric Erickson sent you, or text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 1-800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. But also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. You can fill out the information there, get the report for free. You can learn about their blog. They're very informative about economic and monetary policy around the world. 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Message and data rates may apply.